All right, so our next question is, should we care? Should you care what the athlete has to say concerning politics? Um, and if so, why? So should we care? Should people care what athletes have to say?
Yeah. Um, the reason why I say that is because we have so many kids today that hold these athletes on a high pedestal. And a lot of times they emulate what they see their favorite athlete do. So if you have an athlete that's giving out positive energy, and whatever he says is positive, yeah, it may roll over into that individual's life. So they do have an effect on our youth. Negative things, we hate to see that, but some of the negative things that some of our entertainers or athletes may do, it affects our society in a negative manner too. So what they say, it does carry a lot of weight, and it affects society. So yes, we should care.
So we should care what they have to say because they're famous.
They are.
And they're on TV and they get a lot of exposure.
Yes.
They're on TV pretty much 24/7. All right. But do you think that, Barkley said, I'm not a role model.
Yeah.
So is that true? Because this is what I say. A role model, to me, it's not enough stipulation placed on the word role model. Role model's a model, meaning it's a template.
Mm-hmm.
But I think before you can determine what a role model is, first you got to determine what you're trying to be. Mm-hmm. A child needs to know what they're trying to be. And let's quit acting like this is about, like people like, oh, when Charles Barkley talking about a role model. Most people thinking about kids, but I see all the adults upset.
Yeah.
So I think adults are using people, these other grown people,
as role
models.
They are.
And you have to say, unless you're trying to be, for instance, Charles Barkley, unless you're trying to be a 6'5", 6'6" power forward, and you play basketball, maybe he's a role model. But if that's not your goal in life, then he probably shouldn't be your role model. You should pick someone that's doing what you're trying to do, and not just because he's rich, because you're not going to take the route that he has. So if you're somewhere trying to work on a contractor's license, Charles Barkley should not be your role model.
That's right.
It should be someone that's already has a contractor's license, that's building and successfully building properties or doing whatever they should do. So I think, one, I think all this is a more reflection on people than it is the athletes. I think Kaepernick, if you look for flaws in people, yes. Is he going to have inconsistencies? Yes, but don't we all?
Exactly.
Right? But I think it's more of a reflection on people when they really, a lot of times when they're struggling with a person that they don't know, that has no immediate effect on their life, I think it says more about them than it does the person.
You're right. But one thing though, you brought up Kaepernick, and it's more of what he did than what he said. So Kaepernick he had a silent protest. So that was, in all actuality, a really good way to role model to today's youth on how to positively protest without violence, without property destruction. He showed them that. So we, as adults, we could have used that as a teaching moment for our kids. And some parents did. I'm sure there's some people that did. But if you have that kid who parent works 3 or 4 shifts and he or she is stuck in front of the TV all day, every day, and all they hear is negativity. You hear politicians coming down on Kaepernick. You hear other athletes coming down on Kaepernick for what he did. So now, what is that kid to think? Okay, this guy, he protested. Yeah, you may not like the reason why he protested, but he did it in a positive manner.
Right. You know what? I think people have got a little bamboozled. Meaning, I think Cap's real pushback is that even in silence, even in taking a knee, sometimes, scientists have this thing where they say, hey, when you're looking for the cure, when you're looking to prove something, you have to be willing to go wherever the truth may take you, even if it's in areas that are uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I think what Kaepernick did was make people, it's a tough thing to when you have to question some of your core beliefs, and sometimes when you're forced to question things that you maybe want to ignore, meaning people are invested in the national anthem.
Yep.
I dare you make me think different about it. I dare you make me question it or have to come to some other conclusion that makes me uncomfortable or even have to consider it, right?
Yep.
Or, man, I can't all the way feel the same way that I always felt. I don't think it's not like he's made some case. I think was that he hit a part of people that, man, like when you have a divided country as it is,
mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with stuff, and then here's something else that I have to contemplate and figure out,
mm-hmm.
and come to a place to where I'm true to myself. Or the most painful thing is for something, maybe if you had something that you believe in your life, your whole life, and then you find out maybe it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse than Santa.
It is.
It's like something you hung your hat on. Maybe you've made it a part of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come to say, oh my God, do I have enough courage to say I was wrong? But the problem is when you do that, now you have to do something.
That's right. You have to make some changes.
You have to make some changes. You have to maybe eat crow.
That's right.
You might have to go and sit your family down and say, wait a second, let me say this. I'm not saying one way or the other because it's up to an individual on how they want to believe. But I think when you hit a person at the core, when you make them face themselves
mm-hmm.
through history, you get this kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the NFL has its own agenda, meaning we don't want to deal with this because we're into entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they're trying to produce something to take you away from reality. It's a break from reality. When you sit down on Sunday, it's like, whew, okay.
Yep.
Man, I'm in this fantasy world of football. I can leave the job. I can leave whatever behind. But when you have an entertainment trying to infuse real life
mm-hmm.
that people are trying to escape from,
mm-hmm.
they're like, hold up, man. You messing up my fantasy.
That's right.
I don't want to think about that right now.
That's right.
And even though you're not saying anything, every time the camera go over there, I see it.
That's right.
Now, in my 24-hour newsreel, when I'm just trying to relive some highlights and relive high school and admire this dude for his athletic ability, here these guys come talking about some stuff that I hear on CNN. I'm trying to escape from police brutality. I'm trying to escape from the problems of the world. And so
mm-hmm.
it's like mixing reality in to a vehicle that was meant to be fantasy.
That's right.
To take you away from it.
That's right.
But the way that they cover sports, because they don't let these guys off work.
That's right.
Imagine if you never clocked out.
Exactly.
You always at work. These guys are always at work. They don't have any time, the way they cover them, to just be themselves. That's so that, guess what? We can separate it easier now.
That's right.
It was easier to separate Jim Brown from football.
Yeah. Because you never saw.
Yeah, but you didn't keep them on
all
24
the different
hours
sides of Jim
It was
Brown.
easier
Right.
to keep Kareem
Abdul-Jabbar
Abdul-Jabbar or Lou Alcindor
right.
away from football.
That's right.
You can. It was easier to do that, but the way they cover now, it's like
the guys can't even go in the locker room and decompress after a game.
That's right. They're in there with the shirt off, still sweating. Half the time, man, I don't know if they take a shower.
These guys have been interviewed with towels around their waist.
Yeah.
Trying to get in the shower.
Yeah. I agree.
and they got a mic stuck in their mouth.
And then remember, a select few had commercials.
Yeah,
Everybody got a commercial.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and maybe even the athlete needs to do a better job of separating themselves from like stop promoting your brand every time.
But the thing is, it's these different companies that are promoting these athletes and infusing them into our life.
Well-
Okay, you have Gatorade, for instance. When we were growing up, all you saw with Gatorade commercials of everybody want to be like Mike.